What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Dance of Life podcast. My name is Tudor Alexander, and I'm your host. Thanks so much for being here as I share with you a wonderful interview with my good friend Ilia on how he found Christ at a very difficult part of his life. He had a very serious brush with death in his early 20s, and it changed his life, to say the least. Him and I actually have quite a few things in common. We both grew up Eastern Orthodox and from communist countries, and so his testimony is very powerful. Today he works as a coach, and he inspires other people to live a better life. And so I'm very excited to have him on the show and to share his testimony of how ultimately God changed his life. So without further ado, make sure you hit that subscribe button, and let's get to it. Hey man, it's so good to see you. We haven't seen each other in a while. I used to travel for dance competitions, and that's how we met, but it's been a few years, so it's good to see you.
Yes, likewise. Hello.
Well, hey, thanks for coming on the show and sharing your journey with Christ. I mean, it's a new thing for me to get back in interviewing, so I'm very grateful to have you on the show as my guinea pig to share these things. I think it's so important to get the word out, to get the testimonies out of different people's walks and how God is just doing the work in our lives. So do you want to start us off with a little prayer? I love to do that with my guests.
Yeah, sure. I've been praying a lot lately. I got pretty good at it.
That's good.
Okay. Heavenly Father, please bless this call and may this interview be of benefit to whoever stumbles upon it. Please help me watch my mouth because it is a dirty one. And may this be a good blessing for as many people as possible. In the name of your son, Jesus, amen.
Amen. Love it. Hey, I struggle with the same thing, but I'm grateful that I have a different direction with my podcast, because now it's kind of forces me to be a little better with my mouth. So yeah, I feel the pain. So let's just get right into it. How did you come to Christ? What happened in your life that you changed?
I got a good story for y'all. So I was baptized in a Russian Orthodox church, but I grew up in Russia. So religion is very optional there. And it's also very stiff. I go to a Baptist church now. It's very nice. It's light. We sing. It's pleasant. It's so warm. In Russia, it's drenched in misery. Maybe I don't understand something about the Orthodox ways, but people go there and they have this strife. Like their life is soaked with strife, and whoever shows it the most is the one who gets the most benefits from God.
I grew up Orthodox too, so I know exactly what you're talking about.
So every time I'd go there, it's like, what is this miserable experience, and why do people still keep coming? So because of that, I can just was like, whatever. It's just whatever. I don't care. But then I came to America, and it was all about survival, and I was focusing on making sure that I have enough food in my house, that I'm warm, and just kind of keeping it together. And I was doing pretty good without God for a while. As you know, I run a dancing shoe company, and I'm sure God was there. It's just I continuously chose not to have a relationship with him, because some things that I got through, there's no way God wasn't there to take care of me. For example, I almost took my life at 22 when I went to Oregon and lived there with another person. And didn't work out, and I thought I was such a loser and a failure that I needed to die. And I remember how I didn't. I was sitting on the cliff, ready to slit my wrists and jump off, and I couldn't decide: do I jump head first or legs first? I wanted to die faster, and then this one thought just stopped me. I had this vision of God, kind of like yelling at me after death. What did you do? I had plans for you, bro. And I remember laughing, and literally that's the only thought that stopped me, and I just walked away, just just bleeding all over the snow, not having jumped, but survived.
Wow.
So yeah, I know I'm laughing about it because it's out of my system, but of course it's extremely traumatic, and it was so crazy. On my way there to the cliff, my mom called me. She hasn't called me in months, and she called to check on me. It's like, okay,
Mother's instinct.
I can take a hint. I call these kind of things God winks.
Yeah.
So yeah, so that was my first real encounter with God, because I think that's the only thing that prevented me from doing that. And then I kind of got into my shoe business, and I was doing it, and it was going fine until 2016, when I got completely disillusioned with it, kind of started hating it. So got a real estate license and went into Keller Williams. The way Keller Williams works is they send in professionals in other fields to increase the output of the agent. And this one day, a Tony Robbins recruiter came in, and there's about 25 people in the class. I'm the only one that went. Got hooked up with a life coach, Keith Wagner, who completely changed my life. At that moment, my perception was, I'm a traveling shoe salesman, and I help rich people, and I am nobody. I'm just a means to their end, a cockroach for their preferences. But through Keith's coaching, I was able to change my perspective completely. I now suddenly saw myself as the gatekeeper of people's dreams, because I know how to fit them. I know what they need. I know what sucks and what doesn't. And unless I help them, they're going to buy some insert profanity word. And then I would not be living my mission. So that's when I knew there was something special about Keith. And one day he gave me this challenge coin, Ephesians 6:10. Is it 6:10 or is it 16:10, about the armor of God?
That's a good question.
Pop quiz. Pop quiz. You're supposed to know this stuff.
I know. I'm supposed to have it memorized. We can look it up. Let's see.
I think it's 16:10.
Well, Ephesians only has 6 chapters, so
Okay, so it must be 6:10. Oh, see, you know that.
It's 6. Finally, be strong in the Lord and in the strength of His might. It's 6:11. Put on the whole armor of God. Yeah,
Close enough. 6:11.
there's a lot of good verses in Ephesians. I get them all mixed up. Expose the works of darkness. Saved by grace. I mean, there's a lot of good stuff in there.
So he gives me this coin. It's like a challenge coin is like a coin about this big. It's usually brass, and you just carry it in your pocket like a little reminder. Kind of like a fidget, I guess, spinner thing. And okay, whatever. Ephesians 6:11, armor of God. Just scoffing at it at the time, 2017. And throughout our coaching calls, he keeps peppering God here and there and saying things like, what is your life about? Are you going to keep selling shoes? Is your life about making money? Is your life about making people's dreams come true? Eventually, all this stuff is inconsequential. Started peppering books into my life here and there. John Eldridge had a huge influence on me. His book, Wild at Heart.
Mm.
In that book, he basically argues every man has to have a mission, and the most ultimate mission that any man can have is to serve God. Everything we do could be a derivative of God being served by us. You on this podcast, me with the shoes, with the life coaching, being a good husband, all that stuff. And things started clicking, and I finally started. The bark of my heart started to peel off. The ice started to melt from my brain. And I started getting closer and closer to God by praying, allowing Him to guide me, listening to His winks, paying attention. And before I knew it, I was full-fledged in, because I saw proof that when I choose to have a relationship with God, my life is 100% or more better than me trying to do it myself. And I'm almost done. And then you can get into questions to wrap it up.
You're good.
My dad grew up in communist Russia, and at the time, anything God related was scoffed at. Like, psh, it was more like Ayn Rand fountainhead, self-determinism. If it's meant to be, it's up to me. No, God is coming to rescue you. Figure it out. or die. So I could see my father's godless life. He's a good man, but he's committed to this notion that I got it. And he doesn't have it.
Yeah.
So many things could be better. And then I look at my life and I've let God in and I talk to him and he helps me and I listen to him. And I look at his life and I look at my life. I don't mean to sound like a jerk to my father, but my life is good. And hopefully he never sees this podcast. And I've been trying to get him closer to God, but it's hard
Does he speak English?
yeah,
He does? Okay.
yeah. When we're set in our ways, we want to be right. So
Yeah.
it takes a while for a man to hand over that pride. So for me, I always had a very clear vision of what my life could end up like without God.
Hmm.
I'm a strong believer that everybody is either an example or a warning, regardless of a relationship with that individual. So I was like, well, okay, sure, I'll choose life with God. Seems like a sweeter deal.
Yeah.
That's it. That's pretty much my story. And now I pray, I say grace. I love saying grace between before meals and like throughout the day. Just prayer has become a fun conversation rather than a dreadful nuisance to get through.
Yeah. That's such a big change too. I can relate to a lot of the things you're saying because I also grew up Eastern Orthodox and we were refugees from communist Romania. I didn't grow up in Romania too long, but definitely have the same background. And it just never, it never sat well with me just going through the motions of religion and it's just all this extra stuff that puts itself in between you and God. And the whole point of Jesus coming and becoming a human being is that there isn't anything in between us. That was the whole point. People still don't get it. So, it's just
yeah. It's nice. I'm glad to be where I'm at. Definitely, I can see my blessings, and the way I reconciled it in my commercialized mind is if I focus on being good, if I focus on being a soldier of light, then I will be taken care of. It is a lot less effort than to continue to come up with ways to scheme and defraud the world. It's just so much easier to surrender and be like, yes, God, whatever you say. And because that's what I got so far. And I really like my specific relationship with God because I used to be this cynical, negative person. Just anything I would say would be soaked in toxic commentary. I know what it's like to live without God, and it's just so nasty. It's so much work, and right now I'm chilling.
yeah.
But of course, the price of that is pride. I'm still an arrogant fella, but I had to surrender a lot of my pride to get the access. It's nice. I like it. It's not that much.
I was gonna say, what's been your biggest challenge? And it sounds like it's probably still working on pride, or is that what you feel is the biggest challenge?
My biggest challenge is, yeah, pride, arrogance, conviction that I'm special and that I'm allowed things that others are not because of my work and my effort and how much I've done. And that shows up in how I don't take care of my body because I don't have to. Look at me, I'm so cool.
Mm.
And it shows up in how I waste time and shows up in my selfishness. But the good thing is, as at least I'm aware of it, it's not like what's that thing with a Sermon on the Mount, right? Matthew
Yeah.
with the log in the eye. I used to definitely have a log in my eye, but now I go to church every Sunday if I'm not traveling and listen to the gospel, to the books. Just yesterday I was in Miami and I listened to John chapter 18 to 21, just sitting on the beach, looking at the ocean, cried a little.
Nice.
So good. I love it. It's before I would read the Bible, I'd be like, what is all this mumbo jumbo? Like, gee, what are these crazy things? Why does it have to be so weird? But I
It's a
was just
test.
not
It's a
ready.
test of faith. You know, there's so many things in the Bible that make people stumble if they don't believe, and that's the whole point.
Yeah,
It's a
I wasn't
stumbling
ready.
block. Yeah.
It was incredible. It's like I speak Russian, I speak Spanish, but here was a Chinese or Arabic, and I'm looking at it, and every sentence, every line annoys me. Or even if I get angry and I try to will it, I'm gonna get through the Bible. I just get sleepy, and I don't care. I just literally fell asleep many times. But now, not so much. It's a whole different thing that I can't really explain. It doesn't bore me anymore. It excites me to see what I can pick up.
There's an endless amount of wisdom in the Bible. It's truly profound. I can relate to you. There was so many years of my life where, I mean, I went to like Catholic school. I went to private school most of my life. And so I was surrounded by the Bible, but I never, the closest I ever got to being interested in it was like when I used to believe in ancient aliens and all this stuff. And I would look through the, Old Testament to see if there's, proof of aliens coming down and creating humanity and just all this nonsense. But yeah, for the longest time, I thought it was, just a book of fairy tales. And now I'm grateful that God opened my eyes to see just how much it's just profound. It really is profound. You could study the Bible every day the rest of your life and you would never get bored. So,
I think it has to do with age. You and I are in our
yeah,
30s. So
yeah.
Keith opened up my heart probably around 29.
Mm.
It was 2017 when I met him. So 5 years ago, I'm 35 or 36. I forgot how old I am, but
One of
one of
those.
those. And before, like in my late 20s, I didn't want to even hear about it. But now I really want to hear about it.
What's been a like a life lesson that you recently learned from reading?
Well, I love Luke, the book of Luke. So for the last couple of months have been really pounding me, specifically the parable of the sower.
Mm,
When I read it, I could just see my entire life in these little chapters.
yeah.
The the wayside life in my early 20s, when even if somebody came at me, even if Jesus came down and says, "Yo, man, I got you," I'd be like, "Ah, it's okay. I got video games to play and rollerblades to skate on. Come back in 10 years." I just completely ungrateful and non-receptive. Then there's the road period, maybe in my late 20s, when something would land but not really sprout. And now in my early or mid 30s, I'm probably somewhere around the weedy soil where some gospel lands, and I'm like, oh, that's some powerful stuff. And then I go back to being of my sinful nature. So I have this feeling that towards the end of my 30s, I'm going to be ripe
Yeah. Nice.
and
Parable,
truly give fruit.
it's Parable of the Sower is such a classic. It's truly profound. I love parables. I mean, I could talk about parables all day long. There's so many books on parables too. If you like the parables, there's a lot of people who've written some great books just analyzing and breaking them down. And it's just amazing how so much can be packed into like a little story.
Mm-hmm.
It's just profound. Yeah, I love parables.
Another thing that I must mention, I watched this show called The Chosen on Amazon Prime.
Okay. Yeah.
I don't know if have you seen it?
I've seen clips of it. I haven't watched it, like actually watched the seasons or anything, but I've seen
You
some
gotta
clips.
watch it. It's so
Yeah.
cool. It doesn't. How do I put it? It rejuvenated my curiosity about the Bible.
Mm,
We 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 read the Bible and we read the letters, and then we kind of like interpret it, whatever it might mean, whatever it might have been like. This show, it gives Matthew a face, gives Peter a face, it gives Jesus a face, it gives Mary a face, gives Nicodemus a face. Whatever you think about who wrote it or how they made it, that's not very accurate. That's not a whatever. For me, it was so powerful because suddenly the Bible came alive.
Yeah.
It was no longer some random hypothetical book. I got so connected with the Bible because of the show that it made me want to read more and more and more, because now I had a skeleton onto which that I could hang my conscience onto. I'm failing with the right words here, but
I get you. Yeah. You had some like a visualization of it that you could
yeah,
think
I'm a
of.
very visual person. I can read the
Yeah.
text and get bored and annoyed, but now I have an anchor. I can kind of sort of commit and decide on what Jesus looked like. I can kind of sort of commit and decide what we are Legion would
Right.
look like. All this stuff that made no sense, but now like it connected it for me in a really cool way.
Yeah, it's nice to have those visualizations. I'm the same way. I like a visual thing. I always loved the that old movie. I think it was from the 70s. Is Jesus of Nazareth. I forget the actor, some British actor, but I always loved that movie. I just the Passion of the Christ that's a
Yeah,
tearjerker.
I
If
started
anything,
rewatching it, but I paused when they're about to start lashing him. I was like, that's too much. So I just paused it.
it's crazy, man. I mean, that's accurate. That's historically accurate. It's just mind blowing how much pain and suffering somebody can take. I don't think any human being could take that much pain. So,
Let's hope we never find out.
yeah. Well, what would you say to somebody who's maybe on the fence like you were with God or with Jesus specifically?
God is not out to get you. Give it a shot. Give it a chance. Yes, we live in a jaded world, the world of the devil, the world of cravings and desires and satisfactions and flesh. So it's easy to assume that everybody is out to get you. I believe that forever. One of my major limiting beliefs was that people engage only so that they can get something. Like that was my conviction. I was as certain of it as of my next inhalation.
Hmm.
Whoever shows up into my life, on guard. Let's see what they want, and let's see if I can afford to give it to them. That was just my attitude towards life. Now it's not that at all. That's like, what can I do for you? I'm so happy. How can I make your life better? Oh, you have nothing to give me in exchange? That's cool. I don't need anything. I got somebody else who's going to take care of that payment for me.
Hmm.
God. Because he is watching my attempts at being a good person. And yes, we're not going to get rewarded by our deeds, but my effort and my attitude, I'm convinced, is enough to be paid if we want to commercialize it again. So yeah, when I gave up this suspicion that God's gonna take something from me if I surrender and if I get into a relationship with him, that changed everything for me. So that's what I would say to somebody who's on the fence. Relax. It's not an engagement with a desperate human who is focused on scarcity and self-indulgence. It's a relationship with an entity that has everything it could ever need. And it would be nice for God and Jesus to have my love, attention, and respect. And then he asks for it. And when I chose to give it, that's when my life really became very, very pleasant. That's what I would say to somebody who's on the fence.
Nice. What are you most grateful for today to God?
Songs.
Like worship songs or just regular songs?
Yeah, worship songs. I used to sing before I came to America,
Oh, really?
and yeah, like pretty good, like Pavarotti, and
Wow.
classical Russian songs. But since I came here, I kind of abandoned it. And I recently started singing to myself for now. I'm actually gonna go sign up for a singing class somewhere and maybe get into the choir at my church. I love the songs. They make me cry. I save them. I listen to them throughout my day. Whenever I feel temptation or a moment of weakness, I put on shuffle some songs. Like right now, I'm listening to a lot of Zachary something. Hold on, I'll tell you. Uh, I can't
I didn't
remember.
know you sang. That's cool. And sang pretty well. Apparently, if you're singing Pavarotti, that's pretty awesome.
Yeah, I love singing, but I had no reason to sing, or at least I would be disconnected from it. So I've been singing a lot in church, and these songs, they keep me on track, right? Like,
Yeah.
so I think of them as little lighthouses as I swim on the ocean of debauchery that is this life. So Matt Maher, Maher,
Hmm.
this one song called Lord, I Need You. I love that one so much. You know it?
I don't. I'll have to check it out. That sounds cool.
Yeah, it's a good song.
Hmm.
So definitely grateful for songs, grateful for guidance. I've never felt guided. Uh, my second business is life coaching, and I have now 8 clients that are active.
Wow.
And I remember just a year or two ago, I was so scared to start. It's like, who am I to life coach?
Yeah. No, I
Just
know the feeling. I'm just saying, like, I felt the same way, but sometimes we have to just take that first step.
right, yeah, and again, back to the show, The Chosen. Peter, Matthew, Thomas, Mary. They're like,
Right.
who am I to follow you? So in the same
Yeah.
way, I was like, who am I to coach anyone about anything? I barely have it together myself, and despite all that, I can see that I'm helping, and I can see that it's not my doing. I pepper God for my clients here and there, like Keith peppered it for me. I call it pepper because got to be
Yeah.
gentle with it. You believe in Jesus right now, or I won't coach you. Like
Yeah.
that
I
wouldn't have worked out.
you have to, everybody's got a different journey. I like to think that we're all gardeners in the garden. And, God, I used to feel like, oh, you need to convert people or anything. But, ultimately the Holy Spirit's doing the work, right? And you
Yeah, that's
water
my belief.
what you can, and then if the person receives it, great. If not, it doesn't mean anything. Just let God work. So
The chapter of my life right now that I'm going through that I'm very grateful for is this dichotomy between cursing man and praising God. I think you understand what I mean, but I'll elaborate real quick. In coaching, we call it matching and mismatching.
mm,
Mismatching is when something is happening, somebody's being a certain way, saying something, or something has transpired, and I immediately identify what's wrong with it. That's what we call mismatching. Matching is when we make a conscious effort to see, well, what's good about this, whatever it may be. All your turmoils that you shared with me recently, mine, matching would be like, well, why would this happen? Well, what's good about this? And the cursing men is so easy. Somebody picking their nose on a subway, uh, person cut you in traffic. Cursing is right there at any moment. Just go ahead. All the profanity that I know, it's there. The gun is loaded. Ruin
right,
their lives. Curse them hard. Or praise God. Praising God is also available at every moment, at every instance, in every occurrence. But it has to be a conscious choice. So that's what I'm working on right now, intercepting and pausing between stimulus and reaction and converting it to a praising God response. I like this chapter a lot because I never realized how much I curse men in everything. Slight deviation from my expectation.
yeah.
Incredible.
It's crazy,
And
man.
and if that's how I show up, what can I expect from God? Was you're like, hey, here's all the blessings you deserve. Nothing.
Yeah, we all have to sit in front of the judgment seat of Christ, even believers. We're not condemned, but we will have to be accountable for everything. I think about that day, man. It gets me excited, but it's kind of nervous too. I'm like, man, you get to look God in the eyes. What a thought. I mean, that's just like,
I don't know.
I don't know, it's crazy.
I don't really care about that. I'm just excited that I woke up.
Yeah. It's always good to be excited about that. I love it.
Yeah, I still got a ways to go, but at least I'm paying attention now.
All right. Well, I hope you enjoyed that interview with my good friend Ilia. We never know when or where God is going to make the move to touch our hearts and irreversibly change them. So I hope it encouraged you wherever you happen to be on your journey. If you haven't let Christ in yet, or if you're already walking with him, I hope this interview has been a blessing to you. Make sure you subscribe for more content like this. And until next time, God bless.